and welcome back to another episode of the Outer Rim Ramble with myself, the Outlaw Adam Neeson, joined as always by my partner in crime, the Jedi Knight, Danny Brown. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm all full of food because that's sort of our standard starting point for all
Mm,
our podcasts. I came home and I made like a chip shop style chicken curry with
mm.
some rice and some naan bread, and I added some more extra spice myself. And I just, you know what, it's one of those ones where you're kind of like, this is all pretty much store bought, but then you add your own spices and you're like, this is mine now. I've made it my
Mm,
own. So I was feeling good about that. And then I've been watching that How to Get to Heaven from Belfast.
mm.
I've been watching that. So I've nearly finished it. And I'm kind of just like, okay, okay. There's things I love and things I don't love so much about it. But I think it's just the Northern Irish in me where you just hear people from here and you're like, oh, stop it.
Do you find that when they say they are somewhere, you're like, hold on, I know that road. That's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, it's whenever they they pull up to the Ponderosa, and I was like, "Here, did you know they used to sell Bags Air in that pub because it's one that it's on top of a mountain?"
I had a big bowl of stew because, you have to. In this sort of weather, you have to. And I would say that our interview technique, I once interviewed Eamon Holmes. I had to interview him for the Belfast Telegraph, and the prompt from the Telegraph was ask people what they had for breakfast. And
Okay.
people weren't really about it. Eamon Holmes loved answering questions about what he ate for breakfast.
What did he eat for breakfast?
Charcoal? No, I don't know. But he really wanted to tell me. So I think us talking about food has seeped in. Thanks, Eamon Holmes.
All thanks to Eamon Holmes.
But we'll
Um,
ask our guest what he had for dinner
yeah, I was going to say
for
because people are
breakfast.
probably like, "Oh, they don't have a guest on this week, so they're just rambling again." But we do.
We do.
All right, we do. Who's our guest, Adam?
Joining us today, very special guest. Someone my fiance, when I told her who we're having on, said, "That's my favorite comedian." And I was like, well, I get to talk to him. I'll tell you why in a second. Guest, don't want to spoil it soon. But you might have seen him recently on Little Disasters on Paramount Plus. He's also in some very funny shows, including The Inbetweeners, Derek, Law and Order UK. That's not funny. He's also in the big hit movie David Brent, Life on the Road, in which I sing the soundtrack to on a daily basis, and also in Doctor Who. But joining us today is comedian, actor, and rapper Ben Bailey Smith. Ben, sir, how are you?
I'm very good. Shout out to Eamon Holmes. Um, Always nice to hear him referenced. You know the breakfast thing. You know why broadcasters do that? It's
Mm,
not just because they want to break the ice or something like that. It's sort of been bastardized over the years, but the original reason for it, and I know this for a fact because Clive Anderson told me, because he was asking me when I was on front row, and I was like, why do people always ask that? And he was like, because he was asking all the guests, what did you have for breakfast? And he was like, wrong answer, wrong answer, wrong answer. And I said porridge, and he goes, right answer. And I'm like, okay, why? It's because they want you to say porridge to work out if you're popping on the mic. So
ah,
it's a way of testing out the quality of the mics. So really, everybody should be saying porridge, and they'll be like, okay, sit back a bit, or turn you down, or just take your mouth just to the left or right of the mic, and then we can crack on.
Okay.
That's the origin of the breakfast chat on audio
now,
radio
now, I will
formats.
say this was for a newspaper, so it was just Eamon Holmes being fat.
Yeah, fair, fair.
Just talk about his breakfast. Well, Ben, what did you have for breakfast today? What have you had for dinner? What's been on the plate
I
today?
have been on a really poor run health wise of bacon rolls every single day, which is the kind
Mm,
of thing I normally eat on set because on set you can just have anything.
mhm.
So I always just get bacon rolls. Most people on set get full English, but I don't trust the full English like outside of a decent greasy spoon or my house. So I
Yeah,
just always go bacon roll. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but I
yeah.
feel like I make a good bacon roll. So I try and keep bacon out of the house because otherwise I will I will just eat it every day. I had some, and I've been rinsing it every morning because no one else in the family's been eating it. So
How you putting that bacon roll together? What's your elements?
well, ideally I'll have some crusty rolls that are just lying about, but I've been signing up to Gusto and I've had loads of like spare ingredients and I've just loads of these spare chia pata rolls in the freezer. So I'll just defrost one of those, slice it in two, toast that. Meanwhile, bit of vegetable oil in the pan, which basically makes everything crispy. and then like fry the shit out of that bacon while the tea's brewing, until it's crispy. Because I like to eat all of the bacon, but I can only do that if the fat is crispy. Like my dad used to cook bacon for like a couple minutes, and like the fat would be white and stringy and all that white shit dripping off of it.
I'd be in your dad's camp, to be fair. I'd be in your dad's guy. I like my fat little chewy. I like a little chewy.
Shit.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't touch it. So I'd trim all that off, and then he'd just come over and like eat the fat. But my dad was born in 1925. He fought in the Second World War. Like, he ate powdered egg, like camping under a fucking tree. Do you know what I mean? So like, he just ate. I've seen him eat like slices of butter. He's old school. So yeah,
it's all that
bacon
rations. He's just like, I gotta keep
exactly.
going.
Exactly. That's a different generation.
But Ben, did you ever have a sugar sandwich?
No, I had a sugar puff sandwich. I remember having a couple of those back in the 80s. I used to butter like white bread, put sugar puffs on it, and then butter the other slice, put that, and like I can't believe I ate that. But then I sort of can, because I don't think it's that long ago I had a crisp sandwich. I'd say it's probably within the last 18 months. So
crisp sandwiches are like a must over here, but what crisps did you use?
Well, this is the thing. I like loads of different flavors of crisps, but in a crisp sandwich, it's probably the only time I'll eat like ready salted crisps. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I wouldn't just eat a packet of ready salted crisps. That's lunacy. It's like just having a vanilla ice cream. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, get a life. But in a sandwich, I quite like, just like, I don't want any additional flavor. I'm eating like the most sort of white bread thing you can eat, a white bread crisp sandwich. I don't want to jazz it up. I don't want to pretend it's anything other than it is, which is a horror show. You're eating, crisps and butter and bread.
Bit of bread, bit of butter, bit of crisp in the middle. No?
Yeah.
Love that. I love that. You need to try, though. Have you ever had Tato cheese and onion crisps?
Well, I mean, my wife's Irish, right? So, like, don't talk to us about Tato's. Tato's in our house are like, it's almost like hallowed ground. It's almost like a holy experience, because there's a flavor that we both are obsessed with of Tato's. It's the spring onion ones, and they're so hard to find. Like, there's an Irish pub near me that has them. I can never find them in shops. I can never, I even struggled to find them in Ireland, and I was like, what is
they're a
going
multi-pack special. You have to get your multi-packs.
Yeah, but Tato's are like, for me, they're like the high watermark of crisps. The crunch, the flavor, everything about them is great. Like, I was reading the packet the other day, and it was like, you should take a visit to our factory, and I was like, I might fucking do that.
Dude,
I might actually
come on
be
over.
sad enough to go to the Tato factory.
We'll lift you at the airport and we'll take you.
Ben, it's so good.
I love Tato's.
It's great. The Tato, it's like first year school. You go to the Tato factory for a visit. You have to go and you get to try crisps with like the flavor in, and you see the packing, and then the Tato man comes out. And now the other important question is: are you a red cheese and onion household, a red packet, or a yellow packet? Is it the northern or the southern Tato you're having?
That's a really interesting question, because we don't really do either of the cheese and onions. We're strictly we're strictly spring onion. Spring onion Tato's, or like maybe the beef or the bacon. But like spring onion, if it's not spring onion Tato's, we're less interested, basically.
Yeah. Did you know that the bacon? This has become a Tato podcast now. We're not even a Star Wars podcast anymore.
We're not answering any Star Wars questions.
Yeah, exactly. We're not sponsored. I mean, Tato, if you want to reach out, 100%, we'll get sponsored by Tato. But the bacon Tato crisps are vegan. The flavoring they use is vegan.
This I know, because my eldest daughter is vegan.
Yeah, and so she can still enjoy
She's
them.
constantly telling me, like, "Oh, did you know that's vegan?" I'm like, what? How is that vegan? Like, I got her this like big tub of Cadbury's hot chocolate powder. That's vegan. There's loads of shit that they make that you think that can't be vegan, and it just is. Yeah. And I think it's like a nice little life lesson on how much stuff we've been eating for years that we thought was a version of the thing that we love, like a chocolate flavor thing or a bacon flavor thing. There's no meat and there's no milk chocolate. Yeah. It's just flavor, which you can create. These guys are scientists. There's a dude at Tato who's a fucking scientist. I don't know who he is.
He's perfected the bacon flavoring. Yeah.
It's just the big potato man. That's
It's
just
just it. That
he
guy
just
is
knows.
doing everything.
Yeah, he does every job in the place, the castle. You just walk in, it's just him.
Can we briefly talk about How to Get to Heaven from Belfast? Because me
Yeah.
and my wife started it on Sunday and we binged 4 episodes, so we're halfway through. There are no spoilers, but we absolutely loved it. I get what you're saying about like being from there. Like, you know, there's little things that just bug you. I have that all the time with anything that's set in London, especially movies. Because in movies, like when it's set in London, they're like, oh, we've got to get to Stoke Newington quickly. That's the only place we've got to meet this guy and do this thing. And they're at like the Tower of London or something, wherever they use for an establisher for fucking London. You know, oh, you're in London, Big Ben. Okay, of course you're in London. And then they just get there in like a minute. And I'm like, how the hell did you get from West London to East London in 30 seconds? It's insane.
Yeah.
That stuff bugs me all the time, the travel. But there's little things that were bugging you about that show. I found it so entertaining, funny, intriguing.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. I think it does play into, I would say more so than Derry Girls, it plays into a lot of the like Northern Irish colloquialism stuff
Right.
that you're almost kind of like, it's almost too showy. You know, you go into like a card shop in Belfast now and it'll have it on it. And you're kind of like, oh, we're not that bad. And then sometimes you end up saying something, you're like, oh, no, yeah, no, we just said the thing. The thing just came out. So, you know, it's sort of like out there. But no, for the most part, like we are enjoying it. But I think it's just, you always kind of do get that. And I think it's not as bad now, especially with the likes of Derry Girls and How to Get to Heaven from Belfast. Like, it doesn't feel the need to centre around the Troubles. I think before, with a lot of content coming out in Northern Ireland, it was always very Troubles focused. So it was always like, ugh, even more of a sickener.
Yeah,
Whereas
we
with
do this
these,
again.
I think the only thing that's a sickener is some of the stuff they say. You're like, oh, come on now. We don't sound like that all the time. Surely.
I think with with that stuff as well, I say they're probably thinking, you know, because obviously there's Northern Irish talent behind the making of it. They're probably thinking about like the global audience. Do you know what I mean? Like that's straight to Netflix, that show. Do you know what I mean? So they're probably thinking, all right, you know, we might annoy a few people back home, but like let's try and sell this to the world.
Well, that's it, exactly. But with it being, I think with Derry Girls, it wasn't bad because it was like Channel 4, so it was still kind of like UK focused. It wasn't. Whereas, as you're right, with Netflix, they've got to try and like spread that reach as much as possible. But yeah, just the wee locations and stuff, and like it's not so bad where they're going and showing where places are in relation to each other's not as bad as Line of Duty. Like the amount of times to be like running through a street in Belfast and then they come out at the docks. I'm like, if you go down that
that's
alleyway,
not possible.
you do not come out at that part of the docks.
does
That's
my
not
head
right.
in. I die on that hill every time. It does
Yeah.
my head in.
what did your wife think about it being from here?
She's absolutely obsessed with it. She loves it. I mean, her family is Southern Irish, but she's just like, oh my God. She's fully. She wanted to watch the whole series. I was like, babe, it's like 1 a.m. You got to work in the morning, you know? Me, my life's more flexible. I could do it, but I just think let's save some, you know? It's rare that you sit down with your partner and watch something. Like these days, it's like you get into something and it's cool and you think, all right, I'm going to stop watching. I'm going to tell my partner, I'm watching this. I think it's good. I think you'll like it. But then you've got to coordinate to make sure the whole thing gets watched. And one of you is going to be hungrier than the other. So I find that so frustrating, like waiting. There's various series that I've just not finished because I'm just waiting for her to be available. So now I just like, if I start watching something, I think, oh, this is actually mega violent. I don't think she'll like this. I think, perfect. I just rinse this on my own in a dark room. And I'm watching Task at the moment with Mark Ruffalo and enjoying it very much. But that's a perfect one. It's like a bit too like mean spirited for her. So I'll just gobble that up on my own in a darkened room, like probably in here, probably in my studio, which is my own little space. It's only me and the dog allowed in here. So
I have 4 episodes of Succession left of the whole series,
ooh,
and we haven't watched it since it finished. And we can't watch the last 4 episodes, spoilers for Succession, because my fiance thinks it'll be too sad because Logan died. She said, I can't watch, it's too sad. I'm like, there's 4 episodes left.
Babe, please, can we just get through this? We'll go to a little therapy session, joint counseling thing, and work out the Logan thing afterwards. But let's please just become this bar.
I want to bring Brian Cox to my house and say he's alive.
He's fine. He's right there. Oh, what a show that was. Incredible. Incredible. But talking about shows, we're here to talk to you because you're in a very specific show which relates very much to our usual podcast content, and that was Andor. How did that come about?
Wow. I mean, first off, I'm really glad that I finally watched it, because I've only just watched it. I must have finished it just towards the end, just before Christmas, I think. Yeah, maybe in like November or early December. So I took a long time to get around to watching it, but I did. And when I did, I was like, oh my God. I mean, I'm sorry if this is sacrilege for your other listeners and maybe for you too. I was like, this is the best Star Wars content of any kind that I've seen since Empire Strikes Back. I'm just going to let that sit there for a second.
Yeah. No, you let it. And I'm sure, you know what?
That's how I feel.
A lot of people agree with you, yeah?
I'm standing by that. I'm standing by it. I watched the whole thing, and the first and second season, and then I watched Rogue One, and I was just like, both my kids are big into Star Wars, but the younger one she's massively into it, and I was like, you got to do what I've done. Watch both series of Andor, then watch Rogue One, and then when you're ready, let's watch New Hope, because I'm in the mood for New Hope now after watching all this stuff. She was like, "Ooh, I'm down." So that's about to come up, that little family date, and I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, how did it come about? It's actually quite an interesting and surprising story, because I guess for most actors, that the answer to that question is, I got an audition, I went for it, and I got it. And it is kind of like that, but with a bit of extra interesting detail behind the scenes for people, because I'd got an audition in to play, it was for a wartime drama called Pilgrim, and I got an audition to play like a sergeant major, and the scene was to like just chew out the soldiers, basically. So like a mission's gone wrong, you're chewing them out the next day. And it was a self-tape, which are the worst, because you've got no director, there's no casting director there's no producers, you're sort of directing yourself. And I do them all with my wife, who's a primary school teacher. She's not an actor, so they're always a little, no offense to her, but they're always a little bit budget, do you know what I mean? But I just think there's a charm to it, fuck it. So I did it, like, just did it in our bedroom, because that's the room at the time where the light was best. Now I've built this studio, I've got it built for recording music and for doing tapes, but this was before then. So we do the tape, send it off, think nothing of it. A couple months later, I get a recall, and it's in person. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I go down, do that. I felt like I did probably worse, but you just don't know. Like, no one tells you anything, so I forgot all about it. And to be honest, I think it was probably the longest space between doing an audition and getting a job that I've ever had, because I feel like it was maybe 6 months on, or maybe more. I was riding my bike and my phone rang. I had the the AirPods in, and it was my agent, and she was like, "Hey, you remember that wartime drama that you auditioned for?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "The Pilgrim thing where you were like a sergeant major." I was like, "No." She was like, "Okay, well, listen, you got it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, great." I was thinking, it's going to be another Silent Witness or whatever. Like, no disrespect to Silent Witness, but it's just another job. And she was like, "And it's not Pilgrim, it's Star Wars." And I was like, what? Like, I nearly fell off my bike. I was like, "What?" I stopped my bike. I was like stumbling all over the place. I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Rewind, say that again." She was like, "There's a fake audition. There's a fake script, fake character. Like, it's like under a cloak of secrecy. It's Star Wars." And I was like, "Star Wars, what are we talking about here?" And she's like, "It's a series. They've already attached Diego Luna, like a prequel to Rogue One." And I was like, fuck off. That's like my favorite, like, modern Star Wars film, I was in shock. And she was like, "Look, don't tell anybody, but congratulations." And I was just like, whoa. I was just honestly, it's like an out of body experience. I just felt light on my feet. Like, I couldn't feel my legs. I was just like, what is happening? Because I know there's loads of people who get cast in Star Wars that are just, they don't really have a relationship with the franchise, you know? And that's totally fair enough. I get it. I really do. But me, I was like obsessed with this world. And not just this world, but like with the Empire from when I was 5 or 6 years old, you know? I have photographic proof, you know? I was, first Star Wars gift I asked for at Christmas was like a Darth Vader costume, you know? So I just thought he was the dopest guy. Like, I just loved that dude. And I always thought like the rebellion was like a little bit wussy. Like, they was just like, why is everyone so nice to everyone? Like, humans aren't like that. I just always thought the Empire were like fascinating. So I'd like grown up with that. I didn't want to tell anyone because I was too scared to tell anyone, because I was like, you know, I'd been in TV and film long enough at that point to know sometimes even when you get the job, things can change, you know, like they might decide, oh, actually that character, you know, really there's two characters doing the same thing. We'll just make that one character, which means we don't need that actor. Or, you know, maybe the whole story changes and that character gets cut or whatever. So right up till, I think I told my wife and that was it. But right up until the day when I went for a costume fitting, I was like, maybe this won't happen, you know. And then when I went for the fitting at Pinewood, and it was with your man, I can't remember his surname now, Michael. This is like the original designer from the 70s films, right? And he's there, and he introduces me to his staff, and I'm looking at all these old Empire costumes, and they're explaining like the look and the feel of this is really taking us back to that late 70s aesthetic. And I'm just like, it's a dream. It's a dream, you know? But yeah, until I put that costume on and they were taking photographs on me, I was like, maybe this won't happen. But it did happen. And yeah, to this day, it's still like, it's one of the two things in my career where I'm like, if nothing else ever happens, I was in Star Wars. So kiss my ass, basically.
When they took pictures of you in the outfits, was the secret desire in the back of your head or in the future to become an action figure?
Yeah, for sure. And like when the job actually started, they did do this like 360 3D photography thing of everyone, just in case, you know, someone becomes a fan favorite or whatnot. So yeah, I always had that hope, and you know, it never happened. But like when I did the first convention, someone had like made like a sort of like backing case for a Blevin a toy, and I was just like, that's so dope. And then also I saw like how many people were just making stuff with 3D printers, and I was like, I could just actually get one made. It wouldn't be the same, but it'll be something. And I love my toys. I love my old school toys, so it would be a nice touch. But yeah, like I say, regardless of anything that happens, and especially the fact that Blevin doesn't come back in season 2, which was really painful for me on a personal and professional level, it's still like can't be taken away, you know. I was there, it happened, it was great. I watched that series, like I say, very recently for the first time and absolutely loved it. I loved it so much that by the time I came into it, by the time my first scene popped up, I was like, what am I doing in this? Why is he there?
Do you have one of
Special.
these? It's a Star Wars Unlimited
Wow,
card.
what's that? No, what's
These
that?
these are, it's a new Star Wars like card game.
Okay.
And they'll take like scenes or characters from the shows and the movies, but you've been immortalized.
Oh, that's dope. Look at that. My finger's like right up his nose.
Yeah. What is the card, Adam? What is the trait of the card?
It's a tactic. Defeat a unit that dealt damage to a base this phase.
Okay, so that's a handy one. That's quite a. If you can get 3 of those in your deck, you're onto something. You can take out a couple of units.
Or Ben, collect a whole deck of yourself and then
Yeah.
just
Let's play that. But I want to kind of rewind. You mentioned there
Yeah,
how
sure.
one of the first things that kind of, when you first got into Star Wars, you were fascinated by the Empire. You wanted a Darth Vader costume. What is your Star Wars journey before you actually got to take part in Star Wars?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the first movie I ever saw in a movie theater was Return of the Jedi. So that's a huge thing in so many ways. I mean, on a Star Wars level for one, but on a level of like where my desire and fascination lay in terms of like a dream job scenario, that also started with Return of the Jedi. So my mum had taken me to the cinema, and it was just, like Return of the Jedi was a U, and I guess like when films come out and it's rainy where you are or whatever, your parents just, I know from being a parent, you just like, oh, just go to the cinema, what's on? Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't that like my mum was like a Star Wars fan or anything. It's just like, this is a U, I take the kids. And, being 5 years old, it was just, I remember it just being terrifying. Like terrifying. Like the scope of it. It's like if you bring a little kid, like you bring a toddler to the sea for the first time, they're mesmerized for like an hour before they can settle down and go, oh, it's fun at the beach. Because they just see this endless expanse and this horizon that seems to never end. This infinite, like, vista. And that's what the cinema felt like for me. But, if I'd have gone to watch, what was it, 1983, so, if I'd gone to watch, was Kes out then? If I'd gone to watch Kes or something, do you know what I mean? Some, like, kitchen sink drama. It probably would have been slightly overwhelming, just the size of the screen, but, like, Return of the Jedi, it was like, stars, infinite space, like, on the screen. The way the cameras are moving, the dogfights in the sky, it was unreal. Like, it was completely immersive. And I remember like spending half the movie like hiding under the chair, and my mum pulling me back out to sit on the chair, because it was just like, this is just like too much. It's like too much stimulation, But by the end of it, and especially because it had, people take the piss with the sort of Muppets in Space thing, the Ewoks and stuff. But I think if you were really little, like I was watching that, like the Ewoks were like a really nice kind of break from the intensity of the dogfights and, that sort of 3-layered structure that it has, that every fucking action movie has now, of like fights in different places, fight in the sky, fight on Andor, fight with the Emperor watching on with Luke and Vader. That was a lot for a little 5-year-old brain. So whenever it cut to the Ewoks, I was like, oh, teddy bears. Okay, cool. I can relax for a minute. But it had a profound effect. It really did. And then, as I became completely obsessed, going into 6 and 7 years old, when you hit 7, you understand that your own life is not infinite. You understand that magic doesn't really exist. The imaginary world that you might drift into as a toddler or as a younger boy or girl doesn't really exist, and you accept your own mortality. You understand at 7 that you're going to die. So your whole intellect changes at that age, and that was the point where I was like aware that there were other Star Wars films, and that the one I'd seen was the last one, and I was like, holy shit. So obviously I can't remember exactly how I did it, because it would have been the mid-80s, I guess. Would it have been VHS, I guess? Or maybe by then they had Star Wars on TV at Christmas. I really don't remember. But obviously watched the other two, and, by the time I was 10, I was like, the other two are way better than the one that I was obsessed with. And then you get a bit older and you realise that Empire Strikes Back is just like clearly the best. But what really struck me was that I went from that into like, the tweeny years, and then into your early teens, and then into your late teens, and I would still watch and rewatch, watch and rewatch. So I, like, by the time I was sort of like in my tweens, early teens, I'd bought the VHS box set, and then when DVDs came out, I did the same thing, and it was like, I'm never going to be bored of these. Like, it's just never going to change. It's mad, and it never did change. And then when my kids were born, I was like, when can I show them Star Wars? And of course, when I did, I spent half the film watching them rather than the film, and I couldn't wait for it to be re-released in the cinema so they could watch it on a big screen. And that was magical as well. So by the time Force Awakens came out, and my kids were like what year was Force Awakens?
2015.
2015. So my eldest was 10 and the little one was 7, and they were both already obsessed with Star Wars. So like when Force Awakens came out, I actually spoke about this on Adam Buxton's show. So he asked me a question of like this, and it was back then, it was 2015. I was on his show, and he was like, what was like your most emotional moment of the year? And I remember saying to him, it was going to see Force Awakens with my family, because we're a Star Wars family, and the way that Abrams seemed to capture, I know it gets a lot of shit, but I stand by that film. It really felt like it captured the magic of A New Hope. It's essentially quite a similar structured film, but I just felt it had the same kind of thing where it wasn't too pompous, didn't take itself too seriously, but there was a lot of stake. There was a lot of really human stories, and just it had me from the moment that Finn took his mask off and was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. Because from when I was a little kid, I was fascinated with the stormtroopers. Because when I was really little, I don't know about you guys, I thought they were robots.
Yeah.
Did you think they were robots when you were little? I thought they were just robots.
Because of clones. That's because I was like a prequels kid, and because of the clone troopers, that kind of made me be like, oh, these are
okay,
sort of similar in that regard.
Smart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember thinking they were robots when I was little, and then you get a bit older and you watch the films back and you're like, well, they talk like humans. And then you get a lot older and you realize, okay, then these guys are humans working for the Empire, and they're just in protective gear. And from that moment on, my whole life I was like, what's their deal? Like, what is their deal? Like, how do they get that job? Do they enjoy it? Do they get paid well? Do they get better paid in the Empire than they do in the Rebellion? I always had these questions in my mind, and I think the genius of The Force Awakens was it clocked that a lot of kids grew up thinking that. Yeah. And then when he takes off his helmet, it's like that's the moment where you're like, oh shit, we're about to find out what it feels like. And that just grabbed me straight away. The other two films I'd rather not talk about on this show.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, we can if you want, but no, I think that would maybe be a whole other episode. But what about then the prequels? I sort of mentioned there, having kind of grown up with the prequels, that kind of put an idea in my head that stormtroopers were also people. But obviously the Clone Wars kind of goes on to delve into what happens with clones and the transition to stormtroopers. Mm-hmm. Were you much of a prequels fan? And again, did you kind of raise your kids on the prequels then too, or?
Yeah, I mean, we watched them all because obviously once they became obsessed, they found out about them, and I was like, no, you don't need to watch those. But they were like, no, we want, kids are completists. Kids love collecting. So I rewatched them all with my kids, and I was actually like, I was really down on these when they came out. And they're not that bad. And actually, Revenge of the Sith is a very decent movie, and I totally sort of wiped all three of them from my mind. Now, watching them back, I will still stand by the fact that the first two are really overblown and quite boring for way too long, pod races aside. But Revenge of the Sith is a decent movie, and if you are a completist, it is a nice way of sort of pulling everything together, even though it's weird, isn't it? Because what is the tension if you're watching them for the first time? You kind of know the outcome, so you're kind of watching them in the way that you watch like music biopic or something, like how did Jimi Hendrix become Jimi Hendrix? He becomes Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah,
but you're such a fan that you kind of enjoy the journey of seeing him get there. Could have been done a lot better, but it is what it is. If Star Wars has proved anything, it's that it's such a universal, such an involving kind of concept. The idea that deep within us there is a morality struggle. There's a good and an evil in each of us, and if we let one go too far, it can become incredibly problematic and even destroy worlds or universes. Then there's the other thing, which is that if you choose the dark side, there is a sort of a fascist-like state that you have to inhabit to go about your business. And if you choose the light side, you could find a link to, you know, a very natural force that exists out there, whether you can harness it or not. But you know, with a pure heart, you might be open to seeing it. And those two ways of living are so reflective of the real world that Star Wars, for me, the older I've got, it just sort of gets deeper and deeper, to the point the high watermark for me is Andor. And I'm not saying that because I'm in it, but when I watched it, I was like, oh shit, this takes it to an even more intricate level. If you were so fucking evil, if you're so far gone that your main interest is mass genocide, what's the admin for that? What do you have to do to make that happen? I'm not talking about like the Death Star and pressing the button so it blows up everything, which was terrifying when I first saw it in the original movies. I'm talking about the admin of getting that done. Like, you know what Andor reminded me of when I watched it? The Zone of Interest.
Yep.
Now that's a fucking dark double bill. Andor season 1 and the Zone of Interest. Because the Zone of Interest, for those who haven't seen it, it's a Holocaust movie, but not like you've seen before, because there's a Holocaust going on in the background of this movie, which is referenced almost purely by really distant sounds. Like if you watched it on your telly, you might not notice. I watched it in the cinema, so the soundscape was great. And in the very, very distance of this film, you can hear tiny, tiny little screams, tiny little explosions, tiny, tiny little fires being started. But essentially, it's a film set around the admin of the Holocaust, the guys that are working for the Nazis, working out how to burn all these people to death. Like, it's one of the scariest films I've ever seen, The Zone of Interest, because nothing happens. It's just people signing documents.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's such a good movie, but it's
unbelievable.
wild.
And occasionally their wives will have a new fur coat. And you're like,
where did that come from?
Where did that come from? It's
the,
like that, and Andor's like that.
It's the wee like wee roofs of the like camp houses in Auschwitz, because we were my partner and I had been to Auschwitz. We went to Krakow and did the tour, and it was so strange watching the movie, and then you just see them off in the distance, and we're like, we've seen that, and like we know exactly what that bunkhouse is. But yeah, exactly that parallel you're drawing is just like, yep, that's exactly what it is.
It's chilling. You know, it wasn't until I watched Andor that I was like, oh, this is what Tony was trying to get across. This is what this show's really about. Like the battle between good and evil is one that we've been telling, you know, since the Bible or you know, before. But the intricacies of that, what does it really mean? And like, are the people who are on the evil side, are they pure evil, and the people on the good side, are they pure good? And if you are on the good side and you are pure good, at some point you're going to have to do something evil in order to defeat the evil guys, and vice versa, you know. And then presumably there'll be turncoats and spies within both, because people will have change of hearts, because people are people. And you know, in the Zone of Interest, that is all boiled down to a man burping, and it's one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen on screen, but it spoke volumes, you know. Like, you can't just do genocide and just be like, fine. You just can't. And one of the best ways to do it is if there is an anvil or a guillotine waiting above your head in case you don't do it. And that's what I wanted to bring to the Blevin character. You know, I wanted him to ultimately be a coward. You know, like he's like, it's kill or be killed in that world. You can see it in Partagaz's face the whole time, and Blevin's even lower down the food chain. So, with every mistake could mean the end of your life. In the rebellion, it's not the same. You know, so there's a part of, in my mind anyway, there's a part of every person that works for the Empire, apart from the complete psychopaths, there's a part of everyone in there who's like, is this the right thing? Should I question it? If I do question it, what next? You know? And I think that's a fascinating push and pull with so many of the characters in that series.
It's funny you say with your character Blevin, he is one of the few in the ISB that we see that does his job right. He puts the spy on Mon. He's right to tell Daedra, keep it down. It's a very clever character in the sense that too, it's apart from yourself and another gentleman, it's a room full of white men.
Mm.
And your character could clearly go up the ranks, but you're fighting with the only woman in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Was that ever discussed between you and Tony and the directors, that sort of aspect to it?
It really wasn't. The actual battle itself and everything you said before pointing out our differences in terms of race and gender was definitely discussed. But I have to say, like that element was never fully discussed, and I think it's a really interesting point that hadn't crossed my mind. Because the other thing was, we talked about it, me and Denise, off camera, but from an actor's point of view, because we weren't only like the only brown person and woman, we were also the only two working class actors in the room. Do you know what I mean? So we would talk about it. We talk about that quite a lot. And we both laughed at the fact that instinctively, both of us, with our voices that we chose for ourselves, we both just immediately went posh. Because we were both like, right, these two, like, real world, who are these guys? They're some Tory pricks, basically. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, that was our go-to voice, and I thought that was really interesting. But that, what you just said, adds another layer, and it's very possible. I mean, Tony was deep on this show, man. Like, do you know what I mean? The stuff he was thinking about, he approached this whole thing like Le Carre, not like Lucas, So there was depth in every decision, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was some element of it. But no, we never discussed that with him explicitly.
And sort of working with Tony, how is that? Because he is a guy that the spy genre is his bread and butter more than Star Wars is. Was he sort of coming at it towards you and the actors more on that level rather
100%.
than, oh, Darth Vader's going to walk in a minute? Was he sort
100%.
of cattling you all to sort of be like, we're taking this dead serious? It's not just
100%. It was Tinker Tailor from the start. Like, he referenced it from the start. He took the time out to have individual meetings with all of us, multiple meetings. Normally, what you get on a set is like, especially on something like that where it's such a huge ensemble, normally what you get is the director will come in and shake your hand and say, oh, it's amazing having you here. It really is. I really fought for you, Benedict. My name's Ben. Oh, yeah, Ben. Do you know what I mean? And that's it. And you get like a couple seconds with them and they're gone. This guy was like holding individual meetings with us on multiple occasions, going like, it's really important that you know this. I haven't told the other actor this, or I have told them that. You two, this is your vibe, that's your vibe. When you're in this scene, this is your... Do you know what I mean? Like, he was all over that stuff. It was pretty intricate, all of that element of it. What confused me was that I had all that detail from Tony, but they kept the scripts for the entire series completely secret from me. So I only ever got my scenes. So I'd get all this explanation from Tony, but I never really had a full world view of where the story was going. I mean, Anton Lesser, I think, initially turned it down because of that, like, not getting the scripts, It was when he was assured that it was the same for everybody that he was like, all right, cool, I'll do it. But like, Anton's old school, you don't take a job without seeing the scripts. What if they're shit? What if they're shit? Like, you can't say to Anton, but it's Star Wars. He didn't give a fuck. He's old school, bro. He's like RSC from like 50 years ago. You can't say it's Star Wars. You can say that to me. I'll be like, okay, it's Star Wars. Anton is like, yeah, but is it good? Like, so, that's quite a controversial thing. But there was so much secrecy around the making of this series that, with hindsight, I get it.
And was there humor on set? Like, it's obviously a very serious thing, and yourself being a comedian, but was there like gallows humor to the whole thing?
Definitely with me and Denise there was. It was tricky, I'm not going to lie, because we were shooting at the height of COVID. It was really tense. We had COVID supervisor on set I had that on two other movies. I did a movie for Amazon, Cinderella thing, and I did the Jane Austen adaptation for Netflix at the same time as Andor. And all three were the same. We had like COVID supervisors, actors being sent home, because they came into contact with an AD who tested positive that morning. It's like stress, man. Like Tom Cruise flipped out on, I think he was maybe doing the first of the two Mission Impossibles.
Yes. Yeah.
And he flipped out, and that was quite public. And, everyone was like, oh, Tom Cruise is crazy. But actually, if you watch that clip, what he's talking about, if you're in the business, it's 100%. That was the fact at the time. Like, you can't be fucking around with this stuff because a whole shoot could be shut down. You could lose the location that you're shooting at because you can't shoot that day because, like, two of your main actors have had to go home. Like, it was tense, man. Like, millions and millions of dollars are at stake. So it wasn't so much the mood of the thing. Sometimes you shoot something that's quite dark, but the mood's actually quite light. It was more like it was stressful under Daddy Disney, like it was just like everybody had to be about their business. So there wasn't a lot of room necessarily for hijinks.
And how do you find, because you're very versatile, you've worked in Star Wars, you do dramas, you do comedy, music, children's television. When you were joining the call there, I noticed you putting your Blue Peter badge on,
Yeah,
just to show off,
Yeah.
But
Three.
What other ones have you got? Are they the standard one, or do you have any of the other like environmental work, or what ones?
No,
have you...
I've got two blues and a silver. So the blues are just for showing up, like so for being on Blue Peter, and then the silver's for actually like completing a task for
Nice.
Blue Peter. And then
What's your
gold,
task?
I think, is like going above and beyond. I think I wrote a rap for Blue Peter for like their New Year's show one year. I'm gonna say like 2010, something like that, 2011.
Yeah.
They wanted me to like sort of wrap up the whole year from a kid's perspective in a rap, and I wrote that for him, and I think that earned me my silver.
I got you your silver. But yeah, so you're so versatile. Obviously, working Star Wars was a major highlight, but like, how do you find balancing doing so many things and being such a versatile man and, your career? Because you, as I said, Adam introduced in the amount of different projects you're on. Do you have sort of a preference, or is it just having that creative outlet in all the things you do that you enjoy? Or
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different answers to that question. I mean, first off, I'm never doing these things at the same time. It just appears that I am, because like different things might come out at the same time. But I am like any normal man. I can't really do more than one thing at once. So like even splitting my day in two, I find it quite stressful. So, I got into show business through doing stand-up and writing jokes. Like my first job ever was writing jokes, and then that led to stand-up, and that's all I did. But then stand-up, I got spotted by the writers in between as they put me in an episode. I came up with this idea for a kids show based on my old job as a youth worker, which became the 4 O'Clock Club for CBBC, and that started that path into children's television. But stand-up was my bread and butter. I just didn't realize that acting was going to take over, and that I was at heart a writer as well. So those two jobs, they started burgeoning at a time when like my main, occupation was stand-up. And it got to the point in 2015, I was still I wasn't doing as many stand-up gigs as I would do like 13, 14 gigs a week before then. Like 2015, I was acting so regularly, I'd like do a stand-up gig if it was near enough to wherever I was shooting. But the burnout from that was just insane. I was like, this is mad, like trying to do both. So 2017, I just stopped doing stand-up completely, because I was like, this can't work anymore. I'm writing scripts, writing stand-up, performing stand-up, and acting, and making music for myself and for TV and for movies. It's too much. So I was just like, the acting was going so well, I was just like, I'm just going to do this. And that's been pretty much all I've done since 2017, apart from like writing little bits and pieces when I'm not on set. So actually it's been quite separate, which is the first answer to the first part of your question. And then to what I prefer, I think There's nothing like stand up. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like the emotion that you feel when you connect with an audience in the moment. Like, you could make a Star Wars series, and while you're doing it, you could feel adrenaline and feel excitement and have great sort of camaraderie and feedback from your fellow professionals, but you've got no connection with the audience, really. Then it comes out and everyone's like, oh, this is shit. So you're like, oh, great. Or this is amazing. And then you're like, well, cool. I still don't feel the connection with the audience, which is actually why those conventions are so good, because you do get that connection. But with stand-up, it's immediate, and there's nothing quite like that. However, and it's a big however, stand-up is unbelievably stressful and terrifying, you know. So to get that reward, what you've got to do to get that reward is like butt-clenchingly awful. You know, you like the highs and the lows are incredibly extreme, whereas I don't feel that when I'm acting, partly because it's never just on me. There's like hundreds of us. We're all trying to do this thing together. And if it comes out in a shit, it's not on any one of us. We feel a pain about it, but we're probably already working on something else. And emotionally, you can kind of deal with it. Whereas with stand-up, you're shit right there in the moment. They don't think anyone else is shit. They think you're shit. You right there. They might even tell you, like, we don't like you, you're shit. And you just soak up this raw emotion of people's disappointment in the moment. And it's really difficult to carry with you. So saying goodbye to it in 2017 was really easy. But actually now, you know, nearly a decade on, I realize I miss it. And that's why at the moment I'm spending all of my spare time writing new material to get back on stage, because there's just something really real about stand-up. And I love that there's no editors, there's no director, unless you want a director, but, you know, whatever you think of, you can just say it. And, you know, there's no, like, I don't know, oh, can you believe this guy said this thing on BBC One last night or whatever. It's just like, no, if you were there, you know. And if you think it's terrible, we can talk about it after the show. You know, there's something incredibly pure about it. I think it's, of all the things I've done, it's the purest art form and the hardest, I think, to pull off. Yeah. So it's a bit like when you watch the Olympics or something and you're like, why the fuck is that guy doing the decathlon? Just do one thing. Like, you're great at the high jump, just do that. Why are you doing the hardest thing? Why are you doing that? And it's probably because they've gone like, you know what? I'm an athlete, but how far can I push myself? And stand-up's a bit like that. It's like, I'm an artist, right? I'm a writer. I'm a performer. But how far can I really take it? Just from an intellectual point of view, you know? And obviously some stand-ups become world famous and they become multi-millionaires and whatnot. And that's great. The rest of us, we're jobbing comedians who all like have managed to earn a living, start families, you know, give up our day jobs or whatever, purely through the strength of our like self-belief and ability, and of course sense of humor, which is such a rewarding feeling. Like, so I do miss that a little bit, and I think I am going to get back to it, but I can only really do one thing at a time. It's just a case of like setting out your year as much as you can, because each of my years I never know what to expect. Things can change at the last minute, but like, you know, if I'm on a project that I feel like this is really exciting, I'm just going to be like, I'm going to do that for the next 3 months, and then we'll see where we're at the end of that. And maybe something will come up towards the end of that 3 months that will set up the next 3 months. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I quite like my life being that way. It's seat of your pants stuff, but I've done it now. I mean, I got into show business in 2008. So, you know, into like, what is this? My 17th year? Like, I'm still going. And it's so funny because people look at success in such different ways. Like, some people say to me, oh, like, all the people you came up with in stand-up, like, I learnt the ropes with people that are household names, you know, Ramesh, Catherine Ryan, Sarah Pascoe, Josh Widdicombe, Sean Walsh, you know, Ellis James, These are the guys that like we started together. We're in the trenches. Like if I see those guys ever on the street, it's love. Like of course, but when you speak to like just random people you don't know, they'll be like, "Oh, it's a shame you never made it as big as those guys." Or like it really fascinates me what people see as success, because for me it's like I still wake up in the morning and do whatever the fuck I want. That was the plan back in '08, and I'm still doing it. Like that's to me is like success. Like I made it 15 years ago. I made it. Like when you start focusing on like, oh, but this comedian's doing arenas, this actor's won a BAFTA, this actor's a household name, this writer's like written like this amazing TV series. You can't live your life like that. Like it will never be satisfying. And even if you get those things, I think you'd be the kind of person who'll go, but it's only one BAFTA, It's only one arena, only sold out one arena, So it's like a constant reminder, like, I live like a dream life in a lot of ways. I was really down last year because things were really slow and wasn't getting any work. And I remember going to see my sister and I was just like, I just feel so shit, just feel really down, feel a bit rudderless, like maybe it's over, maybe I'm washed up. And she said to me, don't forget the success that you had that has enabled you to feel this way today. Like you're able to walk from your house to my house in the middle of the day when most people are fucking sweating away doing their day job to moan about how your life's really shit. Like it's your success that has brought you this time. And that was really like, it was like an eye-opener, And that's when I started thinking about maybe I should get back to writing some comedy. And then I listened to an interview with Jimmy Carr, and he said the best advice that he ever got was work out the thing that everybody else finds really hard that you find really easy and do that. And I thought, well, Buck, I mean, that is like writing really silly, funny raps. Like that's me. I invented that shit. Like, let's get back to that, So that's kind of where my head's at right now. And, I think with acting, I probably do enjoy it the most, but it's not necessarily because of the job per se. It's more of the camaraderie. It's the only job that I do out of all the things that you mentioned that I don't do on my own. Like when I'm writing songs, I write them on my own. When I'm writing comedy, I write it on my own. When I'm writing scripts, I write them on my own. I write a lot of adverts, do that on my own. You have meetings about these things after the fact, but ultimately you spend a shitload of time just on your own. Stand-up being the ultimate one because you write it on your own, you rehearse it on your own, you travel on your own, you perform it on your own, you kill or you die on your own, then you go back to your fucking hotel on your own, regardless of how you feel. With acting, it's like you got the acting department, and then you've got the grips, makeup, lighting, the ADs, the caterers, costume, locations, facilities. Like you get to know everybody, because if you take one of those people out of the equation, it's problematic, bro. Like you lose the boom op, like you got to scramble around to find yourself another boom op, like now, right? And it's like a sort of this beautiful kind of house of cards, or like a machine, with all these cogs that have to like put their teeth into each other to turn. Like I really like that element of it, and that's possibly what pushes it to the top for me. But like I say, in terms of the actual visceral experience, nothing can fuck with stand-up.
If you take anything from this, Ben, like I said in the intro, you will always be my fiance's favorite comedian.
Well, I mean, stick that on the poster.
Sort of personally for myself, I don't know if Danny knows this, but when I was like 14, I started doing stand-up, and then from 16, sort of did it regularly, was doing 3-4 gigs a week.
So you know what I'm saying, it resonates, right?
100%, and it's like I have retired now, but there is the calling. Like I recently watched Is This Thing On?
Yeah.
And like that's sort of like, even just watching, I know that's a movie about John Bishop and stuff, but watching that and getting the adrenaline of him going up and him working out sets and stuff, it's like in my head, every so often I will write just a little set for myself and
Nice.
think, I could just go and do a gig just to get it
Mm.
out of the system. And it's
You
one of
need
the,
to mention your reward.
well, of course, it's Ben. I don't want to show off, in front of a professional, but I was Belfast's best new comedy act of 2011.
Hey, 2011. Come on, I've never won an award for anything, so that's one above me.
And it's one of those things now where the people, like you say, the people I started with are doing arenas. And as much as it is like you look at it and go, that could have been me, it's
Mm.
also one of those points where it's like, but it couldn't have been.
No,
It
no,
could.
it's like. Do you remember the film The Social Network?
Mhm.
There's a great line in that where the Winklevoss twins are, at war, legal war with Zuckerberg, and they're like, they're bickering outside of the courthouse and say, you stole that whole thing of us. We would have done that. We would have could have been this. We could have been. It could have been us. And Mark Zuckerberg just turns to them and he's like, if you had invented Facebook, you would have invented Facebook. And like that just sort of says it all. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you really deep down wanted to do the shit, you would have done it. And we all have our own paths, and like we have our subconscious at play. We all make mistakes as well, but like I think when we're faced with an opportunity like that, which is, it's a huge thing. Like you say, the guys you started with ended up in arenas and whatnot. It's a huge thing. There's a part of you that is telling you something for your own well-being that you shouldn't ignore. Like arenas, stand up, international fame, masses of money. They're not for everybody. If there's anything I've learned in the decisions that I've made, and I've come close to like going clear many times in different circles and stepped back for some reason and then analyzed it afterwards. Oh, why didn't you take that opportunity? If there's anything I've learned, it's that I'm not built for those things. There's too many things that I like about like non-celebrity normal life, and I think that's the issue. The two constantly rub up against each other. Like I like being there for my kids. I love it, and now they're adults and they're well-rounded. They're not fucking doing heroin or trying to kill me in my mansion in LA for some reason, because like they feel they've been ignored or neglected the whole time because I've been chasing this thing that is just for me. That's number one. Number two, I fucking love the pub. Love the pub. I'm not an alcoholic, but I love going to the pub. And I hate my pub experience being ruined by people constantly like bugging me and whatnot. So I've sort of, what I've done as a deterrent is I frequent almost every pub in London. So almost every pub in London will go, I'll tell you who drinks in here. You know who drinks in here? That Doc Brown, he drinks in here. And I do and I don't. So I've been there like once. Like I'll be in your pub for a pint and then I'm gone. And it's like too soon for anyone to come over and chat to me. It's too short for anyone to say, oh, he just fucking sits in there drinking all the time. It's really tragic. And it's the perfect amount of time to just feel like I'm just doing some normal shit. I nip in and out of pubs and I fucking love it. And I don't want to give that up. I don't want to go to fucking members clubs. I don't want to go to society parties. I don't give a shit. I really don't care. I don't want to go to awards dinners. That whole side of it just holds zero interest for me. The one thing that annoys me is money. Because, like, if I was famous in the 90s, I wouldn't be doing this podcast. I'd be way too rich. I'd be way too important, and you wouldn't be able to get hold of me. Like, in the 90s, people would do, like, a film. Do you know what I mean? A TV series. And they'd have, like, a huge chunk of the back end, as well as the huge engagement fee that they got. And they just go and buy a property, and they're just good. I know some of these people, The guy's 10, 20 years older than us. Like, they were just rinsing it in the 90s, getting that 90s money sorted. Like, for me, I have to keep working. Life is expensive and, fees and wages are not getting any bigger. So I have to keep working. That's good in some ways because it keeps me hungry. But in other ways, it's like quite frustrating in that way of like, oh, I could have got this if I'd have done. Like, when I quit stand-up, my live agents, who are a very, very, very well-known international company. All your listeners would have heard of them. said to me, "What are you talking about? We just need to do one more year and you can buy a house." And I was like, I can't do another night, let alone a fucking year. I'm done, you know? And I look back on that decision and think, couldn't you have just held on? Just do another year. And I'm like, actually, no. It could have fucked everything. Like, at that point, I never saw my kids. I lived out of a suitcase. I was fucking lonely. Do you know what I mean? Because all I did was just gig. And if I wasn't gigging, I was shooting. That was it. There was nothing in between. I didn't sleep. You know? I just did that. It was unhealthy and it didn't suit me. And I realized, like, you know, I got into show business with 2 kids and a flat that I was renting. Do you know what I mean? I was a youth worker. I got into it late. I lived a real life before any of this shit. And it's a reminder, like, everything I get from it is a huge bonus, always. But also, like, the bright lights and who's supposed to be important and all of that shit. It's never done it for me. And people like go into hushed tones like, "Ooh, that's so and so." I could give a fuck. I don't care. Is it a human being? Yeah, okay, then fine. Like, come talk to me like a human being, you know? People who take on this whole new air when they talk to you, I'm like, jog the fuck on, bro. Like, at some point you're gonna need a shit just like me, you know? Like, I just don't buy any of that stuff. I understand there's like an aloofness that you have to create an enigma for certain jobs. I do get that. But I'm just not very good at it. You know what I mean? I'm not very good at that. And like that, when I look back on my career, I think that's the reason I'm not like an A-list star. It's because it's twofold. 1, I don't want to be. And 2, I'd be shit at it if I was. Do you know what I mean? I'd just not be very good at it. People are like, why is he riding his bike to Lidl? He just really doesn't need to do that anymore.
I love that you're going to Lidl though as well, because Lidl is.
Love a bit of Lidl, mate.
I love Lidl. Lidl's our go-to in the town. So good, but I don't know if you notice. I don't know if it's the same where you are, but every Lidl you go to, even though they're all laid out the same, they're not the same. Like the Lidl in Ballymena is not as good as the Macfelt Lidl.
100%. Same in London. 100%. You got to pick them.
Yeah, you got to have your Lidl
carefully.
Yeah,
man.
And you got to get your little app, of course, as well.
another random sponsor for.
Hey, we're here for Little Tato and Little, and here Tato is in Little now, Hollywood so shit. It's all good. Could Blevin do stand up?
That's a great question. Possibly. I remember when early on in my stand up career, I used to gig quite a lot with Miles Jupp. Do you know who that is? Miles Jupp.
Danny, you'd recognize him from Balamory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's in What's the Story Balamory. He was also in a TV series called Rev, which I was also in, funnily enough. Pops up on a lot of stuff. He's incredibly posh, well-spoken, very, very funny stand-up. And bizarrely, actually, we met quite early on and we found out that we grew up on the same street. I lived on the council estate on one side and he lived in one of the big houses on the other side. And he went to private school and I went to the school round the corner, and our lives went in such different directions. We always used to talk about like doing a documentary about how the fuck we ended up in exactly the same place on stage together doing stand-up in like Greenwich on Saturday night. But I remember seeing him actually in Greenwich on Saturday night. It's rowdy as fuck, and I was worried for him, you know, like because I'd been on, and my act was quite bombastic. It had all these raps in it, you know, and then, you know, all these stag do's, and you know, it's quite a rough and ready audience. And this is like '08 or '09, so it's like we're in the grips after the economic crash. And he gets on stage. He waits for the crowd to quieten down. He goes, so there's a recession going on. Must be awful for those involved. That's his opener, and I was like, "Oh my god, this guy's fearless, quality, so good." But yeah, man, I think Blevin would have to take the Miles Jupp approach. I think he'd have to like lean into his weaseliness, you know. You know, I did channel a little bit of Arnold Rimmer when I was playing Blevin, so maybe he could lean into that a bit more heavily, the pomposity. you know?
And do you think, would you ever say, Disney, Lucasfilm come a knocking and they're like, we want Blevin to come back in some capacity, maybe
Oh,
in a wee series, something. Maybe he comes along and they're like, oh, we're gonna ISB is disbanded and he's gonna
in
go and be on Moss Eisley and he's gotta sort of look after there. Would you
in
come
a
back?
heartbeat. I would do cartoon. I would do the video game, like whatever, like to keep that character alive and to be involved in the universe for longer. In a heartbeat, I'd drop everything to do it. It's funny because like right now I'm writing stand up again, and I've said to my agents like, I've got stuff coming in, auditions and stuff like that. I'm just like, I'm just doing this. I'm not interested. I'm just doing this. I need to focus on this right now, for now. But that, I'd say that's probably the only thing that would make me go, all right, fuck, stand up, let's do this.
Yeah,
Blevin's back, baby.
Blevin's back for a Star Wars cartoon. That would be, you know what? That'd be great. And then we get your figure. That's how we do it. We get
Yeah,
Blevin back, and then we
yeah.
get your figure. Did you ever watch any of the other Star Wars TV shows, the cartoons,
I
Mandalorian, Book of
I
Boba Fett?
watched Mandalorian, really got into that. We all did as a family, really enjoyed the Mandalorian. Book of Boba Fett I started but sort of drifted away from, didn't finish it. Maybe I should get back to it. What do you think?
That's it. Adam, do you wanna take this one?
You didn't happen to see the Moped Gang from the Book of Boba Fett, did you?
No.
Well, Ben, let me tell you, you're missing out. You
So
need
it's
to
worth
go
sticking
back,
around for that.
watch that, and maybe if Blevin returned as like a Sergeant Bilko type with the Moped Gang from the Book of Boba Fett,
Okay.
you're talking $1 million idea.
Okay. All right. You heard it here first.
Mhm.
When I was a kid, I watched Droids, the cartoon.
Mm.
That's the only other thing. I am still like, as much as absolutely love the world of Star Wars, I think I'm probably woefully like uneducated compared to you guys and your listeners in terms of like the wider world, all those other like spin-offs I haven't really educated myself in. Like knowing what you know about me, this is a question for you guys. Like Andor being like one of my favorite thing. I'm not, again, not to do with me being in it. I just think it's fucking amazing. Rogue One and Empire Strikes Back and Revenge of the Sith. Knowing that those are my favorite things, what's the other Star Wars spin-off that I should watch that I haven't, that really fits that kind of feel?
I'm going to tap into something else that you haven't mentioned on the podcast yet, but you showed us whenever you first came on the call and you were showing us some of your toys and you dropped your Goonies figures.
Oh yeah,
And I immediately was like, this dude loves Goonies. We're on to
do
a
love
winner.
Goonies.
But there is one of the more recent shows is Skeleton Crew. And Skeleton
Okay,
Crew
yeah.
is Star Wars meets Goonies
Wow.
meets Treasure Island,
Oh shit.
all that Amblin sort of feel, that kind of
Yeah.
Spielberg come of age stuff. All
My
that
language.
set within Star Wars. Skeleton Crew, check out,
Okay.
unreal, so good.
Okay. Skeleton Crew. All right, I'll start with that. I'll start
do
with
that.
that. Great
Yeah.
shout. I need something new. Have you seen the picture of me dressed as Darth Vader from Christmas 1983?
No, but I mean, I'll look it up. I'll certainly
It's on my
check out.
Instagram page, but I actually have a framed. This is one of the two pictures I have. The other one's back in the house, so I can't grab it. But it's on my Instagram page.
Oh
Fantastic.
yeah.
That's at the dinner table on Christmas Day. My mum kissing a small Darth
A
Vader.
little tiny Darth Vader. That's so cute.
On the other side is
Oh, it's
Blevin,
Blevin.
yeah.
That's
the
What great
journey,
images
yeah.
to have beside each other. Brilliant.
Yeah, really special thing that really is. Like, what a journey. I wanted to, when I was that age, I didn't want to, like when I say I wanted to be in Star Wars, I don't mean like I had the concept of being an actor in Star Wars. I wanted to live in the universe. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
wanted to see what it was like inside an AT-AT,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I wanted to walk on those planets. I wanted to go to Tatooine. Like it was that vibe, like when you still have that imagination level as a kid, where you're like, I could live here, I could exist there.
Just go around. You should, I don't know, do you play many video games?
No, never been a gamer. No.
No, I would recommend just in terms of that wanting to be in a world, Star Wars Outlaws, you can
Okay.
go to Tatooine and you can just like walk around. Like, you don't even
Roam
have to
around.
play the game,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
roam around. You go in the cantina,
That's a
you
vibe.
go see the booth where Solo and Chewbacca met Ben and Luke, and just all those wee details and stuff. And I
Nice.
swear, the first day I got the game, and once I got to the part where you got your ship and got to take off, I just went to Tatooine and I spent like a whole day just strutting
Love
around
that.
Tatooine. Yeah, it was
Love
great.
that. The only thing I have that, it's impossible to steal anything, but this is like an ISB badge. I don't know what you'd call it. It's like a little sort of button.
It's the little cylinder disc from the
Yeah, they
caps, isn't
have it
it?
on their
Yeah.
caps and on their belts. I have one of those.
And that was that accidentally fell in your pocket, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah,
You
yeah.
didn't, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was given to me.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Tony Gilroy
I give-
handed
Let's
it to
call it
you.
that. Let's call it that.
Ben, can I ask you? I'm a big Bradley Walsh fan. You worked with him on Law and Order,
Yes,
and
and
then
Doctor
obviously
Who.
and Doctor
Yeah.
Who, and then obviously working with Gervais
Hmm.
on Derek and Life on the Road. With you being a comedian and those two being both big comedians, but in completely different ways,
Yeah.
did you ever have conversations with them, especially Bradley, about like his career and how things in the 90s were completely different to how they are now?
Yeah, massively. We both men I talked with in depth over long periods of time about comedy and their journeys in comedy because I found it fascinating but also instructional, And of course they come from different eras. So Ricky's journey was a lot like mine. He came to it very late. He was a wannabe musician whilst working a day job, which is exactly what I was before I got into it. The only difference is that I had kids and he didn't. But very similar kind of trajectories into show business with me and him. With Bradley, there's a little bit of crossover in that he was a footballer. He played for Brentford, so like pretty high level, and then bad injury, but he had a performer's spirit in him. Like all footballers have a performer's spirit in them. Doesn't mean they can turn around and be an actor or a comedian or anything, but they are comfortable performing because that's kind of what they do, And I think Bradley had that spirit in him and he wasn't going to let it go. And yeah, he told me about the kind of circuits that he was on, which were just so different. Like the kind of like super un-PC, like end of the pier type stuff, that he'd be involved in. And you can sort of, not saying that he's either of those things as a performer, but you can sort of feel an old worldy kind of British end of the pier feel somewhere in the essence, in the ether of what he does as a presenter. Do you know what I mean? He's like a sort of British everyman, like that you used to get, maybe hosting some of those end of the pier shows and whatnot. He's got a bit of that, which is what for me makes it even more remarkable. His dramatic acting performances, because I'd watch him on Law and Order and think, fucking hell, this guy can act. He can really do it. He's really genuine, and I think it was like George Costanza says, acting without acting. He was just sort of like he was just like being human. And I think maybe the best thing I can say about Bradley is he's somebody who's got to the very top and he just hasn't really changed at all. He's such a personable guy. His first thought always, like, and whenever I've worked with him, is like, are we having a good time? Is everybody having a good time? Am I having a good time? Like, is this worth it for the yucks? Like, that's his main vibe. And if it isn't, then he's not going to do it. I remember on Doctor Who, he came in early one morning, unbeknownst to anybody. There's like in Cardiff at the studios there's like a corridor called Russell T Davies Hall. And it takes you from like one of the sets down all the way to the canteen. And in this hall, there's like these big framed, beautiful A3 framed photographs of all the Doctors from the very first to the most recent on either side of the wall, all running down there. It's great. It's atmospheric. And Brad must have come in one morning before everybody, when it's just like locations and facilities are the only people there, and he'd printed out like a bunch of really shit, like low res, blown up pictures that he got off of Google, Google Images, of like his press photos, like him like, hey, pointing both fingers, like thumbs up, just loads of them, loads of different Bradley Walshes in different poses, and he'd blue tack them over every doctor down the hall. So when you walk in, it's just like really shit photos of Bradley Walsh from the start of the corridor to the end. It's fucking hilarious. Didn't reference it. Do you know what I mean? Just left in there. So the first person would walk down. Just most people didn't notice at first. Then people started noticing, going, "What the fuck is this?" Brilliant. That was his vibe.
Sort of to bring us full circle from where we started at the start of the podcast.
Potatoes.
All of the shows that you've done. What has the best catering?
Well, funnily enough, Andor.
Mm.
Yeah, and again, not just saying that because this is a Star Wars pod. It's really easy. Like, catering on most of the stuff that I've done has been passable at best. I think it's really fucking hard to cook for 300 people. If you ever tried to cook for like 8 people, just try that and see how well you do. It's really fucking hard. Really hard to get. Like, cooking for 4 people is one thing. 8 and above is like you're sweating trying to balance everything. You haven't even got enough room in your oven to cook for 8 people. These motherfuckers are cooking for like 300 people. It's not easy. So I'm not dissing any catering companies, but I've eaten some absolute shite. I mean, if like you're coming in on like week 2 and loads of people are just bringing packed lunches or Googling where the nearest M&S is, do you know what I mean? Like things have gone south. But on the whole, it's like fine and nothing more than fine. And there's been a handful of times, I would say I could count on one hand, where it's like, holy shit, this is amazing every day. And I'd say one of them was the Jane Austen movie Persuasion that I shot for Netflix. Unreal catering, crazy range, loads of different things to choose. I just ate everything. I couldn't fit in my costume by the end. Then number 2 was Derek with Gervais, purely for the desserts. They just had there was a chocolate fondue fountain on one of the days. Nice. And it was a day that me and Carl Pilkington weren't used, so we were just sat around all day, just me and Carl, just on our own, shooting the shit for an entire day, and we weren't used. So it was just like, whenever you came out, it was basically just me and Carl like dipping different things into the chocolate fondue fountain, chatting shit. And then number 1 was Andor. And I don't know if it's Disney or Pinewood, but I'm telling you, like, the craft services, the food in general, like the lunches were incredible, breakfasts were incredible, but like the craft services, it was like walking through like a mall, or like, when an area just suddenly gets gentrified and you're like, oh, you can buy sourdough on the high street now. Fine, okay. It was like that, just like all these marquees, and each stall had like a different delicious thing of some kind. But you're not paying for it, so it was like supermarket sweep. I mean, I was rinsing. I'd go in there with a backpack, just like, load me up. I got kids to feed, bro. Let's go. It was amazing. Yeah, honestly, like, and Andor was the best food I had, but that's the top 3. Persuasion, Netflix, Derek, Channel 4, and Andor, Disney. Congratulations, you guys. You nailed it.
But thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for giving us your time.
It's been a pleasure.
Have you any plugs?
Nope, nothing. Got nothing, doing nothing. I'm just sat in my studio every day writing. So I'll plug that. Let's plug hard work.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I will say though, if Ben is at any conventions and you're listening to this from Northern Ireland, Tito Spring Onion,
Yeah,
bring
you
as
wanna
much
win
as you
me
can
over.
for the man.
Yeah.
Gonna win me over. That's the way to do it.
That's us for this week. Join us next week for more fun and shenanigans in the stars. And as always, we have friends everywhere. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bishop bread, 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 bread. Bishop bosher, 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 bosher. Bread, 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 bread. Bishop Crips in the middle. Bishop bread, Bishop bosher, Bishop Crips in the middle. Bishop bread, Bishop bosher, Bishop Crips in the middle. Bishop bread, Bishop bosher, Bishop Crips in the middle. Bishop bread, Bishop bosher, Bishop ham nam nam nam.